cloud. All right. So let me just see. I've gotten a show you an agenda we can get for the day. And we'll do it by doing some screen sharing. Start with that one. Or is it easier to do? What's the best way for me to share? I'm going to share. All right, we'll do it this way. Okay, let me see that I'm sharing the right thing. It says welcome, doesn't it? Super highly creative slide to start with. I don't know if you've noticed the design elements that went into that, but it's pretty awesome anyway. Keep going here. All right, so here's what we're going to try to get through today. I'm like a lot of people. I don't really like icebreakers. I don't want to call it an icebreaker. It's kind of a thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's stupid. Maybe it isn't. We'll see. Sort of. I don't know. Then I'm going to have you all do a quick introduction. I've got a little form for you to fill out, not the one that you already filled out, but another one that provides a little more detail, a little bit more kind of a getting to know each other thing, which will, instead of having you each necessarily have to speak to it, although we'll give opportunity for that. That's a really important idea. Again, one of the things that is very, very important to me, and I started teaching online in 2007, and I recall before the course had started, I was scheduled to teach. The course was scheduled to start in like July 1st or something. It was a summer session. I got an email from a student in May or June, I believe, and said, "Can I submit all of the assignments ahead of time?" And that kind of caught me off guard because I was like, I mean, I know that's how a lot of online courses are set up. They're intended for you to kind of be self-paced and work through it. But I had to say, I don't think that's a good idea because I really believe that there's opportunity with online, well, any course to really feed off the fact that there's other people in the course to learn with and from. And in the same way, if you're a classroom teacher, if kids never have a chance to interact, if then it's just a contract between you and the student, and it doesn't matter who's in the classroom. And I think that's a waste of time and a waste of wonderful resources and diversity you would have in a classroom to learn from another. So all that to say, I really believe in us learning as a community. I also can appreciate it's kind of a pseudo community because you're sort of forced into it. So I kind of always want to play with that nuance, but at the same time, really do believe in the value of getting to know one another to a certain degree and learning with and from each other. And hopefully that learning extends even beyond the classroom and the coursework that we do this semester. So that's a real big part of that. I'm going to take some time to do some course walkthrough, and that's a really good opportunity for you to ask, hey, this doesn't make sense. What about this? And again, as it's recorded, if there are those that aren't here, by you asking those questions, I think you're really helping one another kind of sort through and make sure that people feel very, very comfortable. And then I'm going to kind of wrap up our time with sort of a high level digital citizenship presentation that I can share with you that'll kind of touch on a few of the things that we'll go through that'll be a part of the course, but certainly there will be a lot more than we do there. All right, so that's the stupid icebreaker. No, now we do the stupid icebreaker. So share my screen again. Different screen this time. All right. So with this one, you're going to need to use the chat. So again, I've never done this before, so that's why it could be a disaster. And here's the other thing. If for any reason you don't want to participate or answer a question, you don't have to. You do you. That's my my philosophy with this one. So let's just see though. This could be fun. Maybe we'll see. All right. So these are kind of cards where you're going to fill in. So there'll be a prompt that'll come up, and then in the chat you get to fill it in. So, for example, it says the card said, "I may look fine, but deep down, I just want to blank." And then you write whatever blank it is there. And then I vote on who's the most clever. And that's always fun, too, to see who's the clever. I'm not going to vote, but or I may look fine, but deep down. So you could do something that's absurd. You could do something expected, or you can do like a joke. I may look fine, but deep down, I just want to eat 11 tacos. So, again, you can be serious. You can be funny. You can be whatever. You don't have to, there's no rule to how you have to respond. Just there's some open-ended one. All right. So here's how we do it. And here's the first one for you to fill in. I don't want much out of life. I just want to be the first person to blank on the moon. Go. Street. Make snow angels. That's gonna be tough. Sleep on the moon. Moonwalk on the moon. Okay, there we go. Sleep. All right. Play fetch with my dog on the moon. Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. We're gonna keep going. You all get a point for that boogie on the moon. That's a good one. Next one. Your real soulmate will vibe with your energy, help you heal, and make you. You are laughing. Yes, laugh. You probably use the same response you did for the first one, but this one too. Question yourself. I like that one. 11 tacos. Nice. Giggle, make you giggle. Snore. We're going back to 11 tacos. Nice. Okay, continuing on. We're going to move through these pretty quick. I want my last words to be absurd. Nice. Check you later. Yeah. Yeah, they will be your last words, Dustin. I forgot to, yeah, that one. Or I like, I told you I was sick. Legible. Peace out. Yeah, that'd be pretty good. I mean, if you could end it with peace out or something like that, I think you would do well. All right, next we're gonna keep going here. Worked out today for the first time in months, and it was super easy. And by super easy, I mean that I almost died at the gym. It was by super easy. I mean, it was not super easy. I almost died. And by super easy, I didn't do anything. Yeah. All right. I did not sweat. Good, good. Okay. Couple more. We'll do a couple more. Welcome to adulthood. I hope you like taxes. Yeah. Nice. Nice one, Miranda. Having no money. That's right. So my daughter's 25, and so I found out the other day that my wife gave her our other car. I didn't know that we did. She'd been using it, now it's hers. But I said, well, then you should be like, you have to pay the insurance. And she went, what do you mean insurance? Well, you have to pay insurance every month. Well, I thought you just bought the car and then you have it. No, that's not how life works. So she's learning about adulthood. You have to actually pay insurance. Okay, maybe we'll do one more. Then we'll maybe use this another day. Really quit my job so I can spend more time. Like, get back to the 11 taco. Nice golfing. I'd like to spend more time golfing. Swimming, hanging out with my dog, looking for a new job. Yeah, playing volleyball, taking care of my kids, building Lego. Yay! Okay. Uh, well, it's just a tie. You're all super super smart and geniuses. So that's awesome. All right. It's what is actually really weird is be in a room in my sister's office, and it's just me talking to a screen, and then you're all muted, which you're supposed to probably be muted to start with, but it would be lovely actually to hear your voices. So here's what there's going to be like a little more detailed form, but maybe just so I can hear what it is your voices sound like. Maybe just why don't we do two things? Tell me where you are and what you had for dinner. That's all you have to do with this one. So where you are, and I'll call out your name, hit the mic, tell me where you are and what you had for dinner. So let's start with, and I'll just do it according to the way it's on my screen. Jason. Where are you and what do you have for dinner?
Good day, everybody. My name is Jason. I'm in Fort Capel, and I had a meatball sub from Subway. It was
Tasty.
delicious.
I'll bet it was. Brittany.
Hi, I'm in Saskatoon, and we had dry ribs and pierogies.
Okay. That beats Jason's meatball sub, I would say. Probably. Kavita. Muted, my friend.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Kavita, and I'm from Regina right now. And for the supper, I had boiled rice along with veggies.
Wild rice?
Boiled.
Boiled. Okay. Boiled rice and veggies. Very healthy. Miranda.
Hi, I am from Kelleher, so I'm close to you, Jason. I know where you are. I don't know if anyone else knows where Kelleher is, but it's kind of out in the boonies. I had corn on the cob with my 5-year-old, and then I've just been eating desk drawer candy for the rest of my supper.
Okay. Desk drawer candy. That's a very specific kind of candy that is like, yeah, show us some. Like, what are you talking about? Okay. I mean, it's like packaged and stuff. It's like I was envisioning like a loose candy, like something that you like it got a little fuzz on it too. Like that's not quite so bad. That's not bad. All right, Joshua.
Hey, I'm Josh. I'm from Regina, and I had tacos, but just two of them, not 11.
Okay, there you go. Lisa.
Hi, I'm from Mooseman. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I am at Whitewood Rink. My kid is in hockey tryouts right now, and I just discovered I came and hid in the bar, which is open from behind. We had casserole for supper that I got ready last night because life is crazy.
Justin.
Hi, I'm in Raymore, and I have yet to have supper. I'm still determining what I want to eat.
So this is our little family kind of inside joke is like if you eat supper past 6 o'clock, we actually kind of call you fancy. Like that's what the city fancy people do because they're so busy, or the Europeans and they eat at like 8 o'clock, and that's a whole thing. So you're fancy, Dustin. So
I am fancy. Yeah.
there you are, very fancy. And please help me if I do not pronounce your name correctly. Correct me, Alicia.
It's Alicia, and
Alicia.
I go by Allie, so that's easier
All right.
for everyone.
Okay, Allie.
I'm from Regina, and I have not eaten supper, but my child ate pancakes that I made the other day. Toast her, give her some syrup. She's hanging out on her own. I have not eaten supper.
You will probably by the end of this course, you will become quite familiar with my three grandchildren, ages 3, 5, and 6. And pancakes are super popular. You make them and then you put them in the fridge, and like you said, 3 days later they're good to go. Or you freeze them and then you like kind of have a family. You can go that way too. Yeah, they're very happy with pancakes. It doesn't take much to please them. Taylor.
I'm Taylor. I'm in currently, and I had a broccoli chicken noodle concoction.
That usually those work together pretty well. Like, was it a homemade thing or like
No,
leftover
President's
thing?
choice,
Okay, yeah,
but
no,
it was
that
still
works.
good. It was still
It
good.
is, yeah. Jenny.
Hey, I'm Jenny. I'm in Moose Jaw, and for supper I had homemade pizza.
Kelsey.
Hi, I'm Kelsey. I'm from Estevan. And for supper I had couscous with basa.
Excellent. Andrea.
Hi, I'm Andrea. I'm in Shaunavon. For supper, we had stir fry that had beef, chicken, shrimp, and vegetables.
You got a lot of stuff in there. Something
Yes.
for everybody. Something for everybody. Chris.
Hey, I'm Chris from Moose Jaw. I had a spicy chili tonight.
Spicy chili. Okay, you're rocking it. Seems like more of a fall thing. I mean, you're kind of getting ready for fall. Like usually our family does chili kind of takes a break from about May till now, but yeah, it's getting close close today, but I think it was probably warm today in Moose Jaw, is my guess. When I left this morning on the plane, it was still pretty warm. Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm in Regina, and I had pork sinigang. It's a soup with tamarind and some vegetables.
All right. You're gonna have to help me make. I'm sure I pronounce your name is Aodil. Aodel, help me.
Yes, Iodel. Hi, I'm Iodel. I'm
Iodel.
Regina, and yeah, I have pasta and vegetables for tonight.
Wonderful. And Kathleen has a friend with her.
Yes. Hi, I'm Kathleen. I'll probably have my camera off for the most part. As you can see, I'm solo parenting my 4-year-old. This is Hunter.
Hey, Hunter. How you doing, buddy?
I'm solo parenting right now and for the next few weeks, so I'll usually have my camera off just so he's not distracting everyone else. We had a typical toddler supper. We had chicken fingers and French fries. That's just what phase we're in right now.
Wonderful. Nice to meet you, Kathleen and Hunter. Is there another one there, or is that just his hand reaching out with the bottle there? Okay. Excellent. Well, that was good. Thank you so much for indulging in. It's just lovely to hear your voices and see your faces. And so I know, like, and tell me, I'm curious because I mean, during COVID, I did a lot of online presentations. I haven't done one of these really for a while now. It's most of the work I do is face to face. So and anyway, I am in Newmarket, Ontario, and my sister made a lovely roast chicken, carrots and potatoes for our supper. It was wonderful. But wondering about your most recent online experiences, especially when you're doing synchronous. What has been sort of the norm around cameras on, cameras off? People don't care. Do they care? Does somebody say anything? I don't know if anybody wants to share, because I'm curious to know what sort of has been a norm, or is there a norm? Maybe there isn't.
In my experience, it's usually been cameras on with mics off, and then mics on in like small group conversations, but mics off in the larger group unless there's something to be said or added.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and like, honestly, like it's selfishly, I like it. Like, it's nicer for me if I'm the one leading, and if you're on this end of it, kind of lead something, you probably prefer it. At the same time, I don't want to, people feel more comfortable with their cameras off, or listen, I'm in meetings all day long, and I usually have my cameras on because usually people that I know or people that I'm, trying to get to know. So I have them on, but like Kathleen's got a good reason not to have it on. And if you just want to have your camera off that day, you do that. Like, it's not going to bother me if you do that. But it also, I'm just saying, it is very nice when you have it on. So, and listen, if you have it on and you're still, maybe at some point, Dustin's going to feel like, you know what, I think I know what I want to eat. And he's going to go run and grab it, and he's going to eat it. He could eat it right in front of me, and it wouldn't bother me if he did that. I mean, he that's up to him. So all that to say is, like, just do whatever makes you feel comfortable, but also keep in mind that other people really probably like it. Yeah, no, Kathleen, you don't need to apologize at all for that. I totally get where you're coming from. But yeah, I was just curious to know what kind of, if people had because some people do actually have very strict about, you have to have your camera on and all that business. And I know during COVID, if you were teaching during that, you're with high school or middle school students, became kind of important. I mean, I don't know for accountability. I just know that if the camera's on, I'm more likely to be engaged, because my camera's off. It's just too easy to go let the dog out or go get a snack, which, again, that happens. That's fine. But anyway, all good. All right. Well, I would actually kind of like to dive a little bit more into each of your kind of background and context. And I know that each of you kind of bring a rich experience to this and have different purposes. So I did create a form, and I'm going to share it with you in the chat. It's about 5 questions. You don't have to answer them all, but I'm going to take, in fact, what we'll do is I'll probably, once I populate it in there, if you want to shut your cameras off while you're typing and doing that, that's fine too. But I'll probably give you about 5 to 7 minutes to fill it out. So let me just go grab the URL. It is also, I did just put it into the into the course too. So you'll see it there, but let me do it. Let me just do this. Here we go. All right, here's the link. And with this link too, after you fill it out, you will be able to see other people's responses too. So know that you know, you don't need to share anything personal that you don't want. Everyone's going to see the answers to these questions. So just kind of be mindful of that. But it is kind of a good way to kind of get to understand everybody's different contexts and what they're into and what they want to get out of the course and those kind of things. All right. So it's 9:24 where I am, but it's 7:24 where you are. Let's go at least to the bottom of the hour, and then if you're done sooner, fine. But I'm going to shut my camera off just so that you can focus on that and be back in about 6 minutes or 7. If you're finished, I want to invite you. First of all, can you see other people's responses? That's the way I tried to set it up. So, okay. So here's what I'd like you to do. Have a look at other people's responses and just choose, and it doesn't matter if it's a question around where their home is or their current role or a favorite moment, any of the prompts that were there. But if one kind of struck out that either you want more, you want people to tell you more about that, or perhaps you made a connection to them saying, oh, that's similar, I had a similar, share it, make a similar connection. But that's what I'd love you to do, is just go through those lists. And again, there's some people are still filling them out. I think we're almost finished with them, but there might be a few more. And yeah, once you do that, pick out one prompt response that you want to call out, ask a little bit more, or make a connection to that one, get clarification, however you want to do that. And yeah, we'll just give people a bit of a chance to do that one. So if you have when you have something, raise your hand and share it out.
I can go. The
Yeah.
one about teaching family life education and the questions it brings, that made me laugh, and I can't even imagine some of the things that would come along with that.
Whose was that?
It doesn't say, like, it just shows.
No, I'm asking people in the room to
sorry.
shout out.
Gotcha.
Is that you,
That
Jenny?
was mine, and I did not want to put what the question was because I didn't know how PG this should be.
See, that's so one of my biggest mistakes, and I filled out the form earlier. So I taught first grade, and the dumbest thing is I did not write down what kids said. Like, I feel like if I had been smart and wrote that down, I could have retired on that alone, because it just, they would, I mean, it got to a point, it was like every day they just said stuff that was like, okay, that's just wild. But it was like, you forgot how wild it was. But yeah, good stories there. Anybody else?
I can do one. I really liked, I don't know who this was, the person who said that building relationships with students allows you to help with classroom management, teaching, and learning, especially as a middle years teacher for 10 years. That is the biggest thing, is building relationships. So I like
Who wrote that?
That was me.
Yeah, maybe expand on that if you can think of if it's something obviously maybe came to mind when you wrote that.
Yeah, if you know anything about Notre Dame, it's a private school, and so you're kind of like their parents and their teacher, so it's a little bit different. But I just find, like, I've been there for 3 years now, and I find the best method of connecting with kids is just being invested in what they're invested in and asking about it all the time. Ask them how they're doing in their work if I'm not the one teaching them anymore. Just like asking them all of these like personal questions, which are just like really just connection points. And I find it so much easier to handle when I can just kind of, like, when you look at your family and you're like, wow, this conversation's going somewhere else and we don't want to be a part of it. You kind of give them that look. It makes it easier because they can kind of pick up on that, right? Because you can just say, hey, what's going on? Like, without disrupting the whole room. Obviously it's high school, so it's a little bit different. I have taught middle school as well, and I found the same thing kind of flows there. So just being invested in what they're invested in just brings a whole level of connection to the material and engagement, really, because they want to learn from you.
But what I would add to that, Alicia, is it's Alicia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, how's Mr. Govan doing?
Great.
Yeah.
Great. We're lovely, lovely guy.
Yeah, I work with Stefan quite a bit.
I gotta jump in there. My aunt and uncle just bought their house in Moose Jaw.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
So The one thing I would say is like, and when I began teaching in a billion years ago, it was okay. I don't say it was recommended, but it was okay if you just really like teaching stuff, like being a math teacher or being whatever. You could kind of lean into your content, and you didn't necessarily have to invest in relationships. It would be better if you did, but there could be teachers who just said, listen, social emotional stuff, that's mom and dad's job. I don't do that. I do math. And if you don't know how to do math, if you got other problems, go somewhere else to figure it. That doesn't work anymore. You can't teach like that anymore. And I'll tell you a story. My oldest daughter started with an education degree, and she realized after 2 years she did not have that capacity to build those relationships as you described. And she said, I know I cannot do this job unless I'm willing to invest and do that. And I mean, I credit her. She's not in education anymore because she said, and I think people that don't get that, I think struggle. Like you've basically said, and I think Alicia, even though you've described it, like you enjoy that. Like I want to get to know kids. Like I want to have a relationship with kids because it's going to make things easier and because you're actually making a bigger impact when you do it. So thanks for calling that out and drawing that attention. I think it's a definitely difference between teaching in 2024 than it was in say in 1994 for sure, and even farther back. Anybody else want to jump in on a interesting prompt response? Who gets called grandma? There's nobody old enough here to be called grandma. Really? Okay, kids aren't all that bright. Let's just admit it.
But it's not that they think I'm old, right? It's kindergartens and they'll be working and you're helping, right? And it's like, oh, grandma. And then they get embarrassed, but yeah.
Yes. No, I get that one. Oh, and are you the one that wrote a good one here, a really long one about kindergarten?
That was me.
Okay, help us out with some. These are so good.
Oh, it was my first year. And when you're like dying inside because they just are disasters and you're like, can you please get outside? I really need to pee. And he didn't. And I was frustrated and I was losing my mind with him. And even when he left, I was like, oh, for goodness sakes, get outside. But then he turned around and he was like, Miss Chabelle, that was my maiden name. I love you. And I just thought about how me being kind to him, even though he was a disaster and there was now yogurt on the roof, meant so much to little him. And now he's like way taller than me. And I'm in a pre-K to grade 12 school. So I've got to grow up with these kids. I've been here for 10 years. And that's still one that it just shows how important those it's not like the outcome of the day that's the most impactful for those little kids. It's the way you treat them and how you make them feel.
So I don't know. For whatever reason, I feel like I have a lot of bathroom related stories. I don't know why. Anyway, if you've ever been to William Grayson School in Moose Jaw, it's an old school that they renovated. So they renovated it so that the staff washrooms like went out to the hallway. So I can remember I was teaching about 4th grade and it was just like, it was the morning and like I had to go. So it's like, hurry up. I sent them off for lunch. I raced to the washroom and then the kids are outside and they're knocking on my door and like with a mom, yeah, he's in there. Like, it's like the worst thing. Like I just wanted just a moment where I could be in a washroom and not have a kid, but like, and it always was like that. And you had to tell the kids, get away. Like this, your teacher's in the washroom. Let them be. Like, you don't need to be hovering around them. You open up the door and there's like 4 kids waiting for you. So we had to kind of strategize around how not to don't wait around the washroom for your teacher to come out. It was awful. Anyway, so I would actually say maybe bookmark this just as you kind of, and I'm going to use it for sure because I'll go through it just to kind of help me. Now you got faces. then I'm going to get names, and I want a little more context. And I mean, all this stuff, I hope will all kind of mesh together as we continue to learn together. But I just wanted to kind of get that going. All right. Anything else before we jump into what the course's contents are and how we're going to figure this out? Anybody else want to add anything? I'm always happy to hear a story or a connection that somebody made. All right. Let's go take a deep dive into the course itself and where everything is. And again, as I share this with you, a lot of this is learning for me, because when the last time I taught the course, I did not have the same. I didn't use this U of R courses format, and everything else was all very different. And so I'm learning it as you are. So help me out if things don't make sense to you. And if you say like this, yeah, so this is all us learning together, and you kind of helping me and me helping you along the way. So let's jump into the course. So we're over here. All right. So this is kind of where we just house everything. And this is the way that I'll kind of do it, the format. And full disclosure, Alec Corus and I are good buddies, and he kind of said, here, start with this template. So I started kind of with his, and I got to kind of make it my own along the way. But this is sort of the way that it's set up, and it kind of makes sense to me. So each week we'll have, all of these pieces, and this is where we'll fill a lot of this stuff in. And as you can see, I haven't got it all, it's not all done to the end. I'll probably over the next month populate it so that it might actually have every week to the end of December or till the end of our time. But so if you're really super anxious about jumping ahead, you can't really do that right now. But just chill, you're fine. So let's start with the course syllabus. I mean, most of this stuff is whatever kind of blah, 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 but not blah, blah, blah. But this idea that the two key components of the course is this. And so, and I know my guess is, and I don't know the politics around it, but that probably at some point, my guess is during COVID, that virtual attendance for synchronous courses hasn't always been great. And so the university has really sent me a lot of stuff saying like, you can only miss like one course, or one of these classes. So I have no agenda around that. So I'm just trying to make sure that somebody doesn't get mad at me for what I'm doing. So if you're gonna miss a class, probably not a big deal. You let me know and it's fine. It sounds like if it gets to be more than 2 or so, then it's could be an issue. Again, we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. Hopefully that's just not going to happen, but that's a big part of it. And then of course, the second part is all of the asynchronous stuff that you do online, which is we're going to get to. So you see kind of the course objectives there. Go through that. And we're going to, again, somebody I know in the U form there filled out the fact that they really wanted to grow their professional network. And so you have that already with the participants in the course, the 17 or 18, and again, I got to look at the number. I thought it was around 20, but I could be wrong. All of you are part of that. But also one of the things that I've always done in the past and will continue to do is to introduce you to a lot of different guests and people that I know who are really, really smart and engaging people. So, and they can then become kind of part of your network as well. So no text, don't have to worry about that. Generative AI. Now, this is where things are going to get fun. So my current role right now, so real quickly, I'm a former teacher. Well, I'm still a teacher because I'm teaching right now, but I was a classroom teacher in Moose Jaw for 14 years. I taught K-8, pretty well everything. Then I worked at the school district as a digital technology coordinator. I left in 2012, went to work for the Discovery Channel and did really cool stuff all across North America, professional development, speaking, a lot of that kind of stuff. In 2019, left there and joined the company I'm with now, Advanced Learning Partnerships. We're a pretty small company, but again, professional development, professional learning. That's what I'm here. I'm going to be working in Limestone School Division. It's in Kingston on the weekend. And my work is generative AI. That is what I've been doing the last 18 months, a ton of it. So I am super invested in it in terms of trying to understand it, wrap my head around it. Full disclosure, I sometimes think it's awesome, and I sometimes believe it's like our lives are going to end as a result of this too. So I live in the duality of its risks and possibilities. I see them all. And so I'm really excited in this course to begin to explore it with all of you. And so and as you can kind of see here, you're free to use it. So you're going to be writing blog posts each week. It would take zero effort, probably, to pump it into GPT and say, write a blog post about blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if I could detect it. And I don't know that I want to play that game with you anyway. What I would love you to do is simply be honest and transparent if you're using it. So if you honestly choose to let it write something for you with, just a single prompt, no editing, and post that, and you think that what you've done is like, I think this is really good and it's really capturing my thinking, I just want you to note that on there. So whenever you're writing something, just say, totally chat GPT, didn't do any editing at all. Now, my probably initial response to be is like, well, that's kind of sad. Like, you should have invested more. Now, whether that means I kept prompting it to make it better and better. I don't have again, no problem with that. I just want you to be transparent in using it. And because I really do want to understand from a teaching and learning perspective when it works and when it doesn't. So I don't want this to be about you using it. If it makes it's not that I don't want it to make your life easier, because I think that's part of its benefit. When it's working well, it can make our life easier. But learning, again, this is supposed to be a personal journey for you to learn. So does anybody have any questions? I'm just going to pause there because I've kind of just opened up this Pandora's box. And we're going to get into this a lot more in depth, and I'll be sharing some of the work I'm doing and talking about this in greater detail, because I know many of you, especially those of you teaching middle and high school, this is a reality for your world today. This is not something that, you have to learn about and then maybe next, it's happening now. So we're all kind of navigating this together. So I'll just pause to see if anybody has any has any questions or needs clarification around kind of where we're at with this. If you're good to go, just, I don't know, thumbs up in the, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, for those who don't know, I guess I've been dealing with this for now a couple of years, but ChatGPT, for example, or like any of the other ones, typically pick up on the narrative, the type of narrative that you're looking for, or it will create one for you. So if you're asking it a specific type of prompt, it's going to look through it in a specific lens, unless you try to challenge it to change back to how your thinking is. So it's kind of like if you explain it like the news, right? They only look through, some of them only look through one lens, right? So it kind of does that same thing. So there's many ways that you can kind of play around with it. This year I'm teaching EAL, and so I had to use a lot of the ChatGPT to figure out how to make that work, because there's pretty much no resources for it. And I just found that it was kind of pulling me in a different direction when I wanted it to be something else. So just make sure you're very clear on the prompts if you are using it, so that you get it to guide you in the right way if you're using it.
No, appreciate that. Again, I'm sure we're all at very different stages of this. Some of you might have been using it extensively. Alicia's talking about, her experience. Maybe others of you, it's kind of a new thing. So that's okay though. I'm looking for the transparency around it. So what you've described, Alicia, is like, here's what didn't work for me. Here's what I got. Like, I want the metacognition around this one, as it's kind of stated there. That's really the key, that you're actually thinking about this in terms of like, is this giving me what I need it to give me? Certainly, you know, when you're using it for these sort of lesser like mundane tasks, like help me to write an email to somebody about what like you may reach a good enough stage very quickly, right? This is good enough. Like, and that's awesome that it can get you, you know, there's lots of tasks and things that we do in learning it's just good enough. It doesn't have to be the best thing ever. But I guess, especially when we get down to some of the final assignments and those kind of things, that's where I think, you know, we really want to make sure that your personal insight, perspective, and ideas shine through. And that's where it still can be helpful, but you really have to you kind of have to override so much of it in order to get your voice out. But again, think of it as an opportunity to sort of either up your game if you think you're pretty competent user of it, or just introducing yourself to it around this may work, not work. And again, we use each other to kind of lean on each other in terms of our experience. So that it may actually be something that I make a regular part of our Tuesday sessions, like might just be this week in AI. And if there's like something you learned or discovered in it, because if there's one thing that's vastly different from the last time I taught a course similar to this in 2019, it's generative AI. So that is the super seminal difference in it. So anyway, we can continue to talk about that, but that's certainly one thing that's going to come out loud and clear. There's that little reference on attendance. So just keep that in mind. All right. Proposed assignments. And this is where I am most open to you as well, in terms of like when I took my master's in the early 2000s from the University of Saskatchewan, I was so blessed and privileged to have my mentors and teachers say to me, because I was a digital learning consultant at the time, make this applicable to you. So like do things that like double dip, in other words. Like if this is something that you're actually going to be doing in your job, that's what I'd love you to do. So rather than have this to be some extra thing, it may be. So that's where I'm inviting you to think about the way these assignments are proposed, and if there's something that you think this could make sense, but I might need to change it. That's where you and I can have a conversation about how to make it more relative to you. So that's what I really want to have. So all right, so we've got the 40% around the professional learning, which is your blog site. So this is one of these things where when I taught this in 2007, I was introducing people to blogs. They didn't know what blogs were. They wondered what it was. And today that's not the issue. And yet I'm one of the weird people who actually still blogs pretty regularly. And it's a really powerful reflection tool for me. That's the most common way I've used it. So again, understand it's not maybe everybody's cup of tea. But what you want to do each week is through the resources that are shared, and once we start doing the content catalyst, that'll maybe even make more narrow some of your writing, is respond just like here's the thing that's hitting me today, here's how this is relevant, and again making it relevant to you. Here's how I apply this in my own learning, where this makes sense for myself in my current role or what I'm wondering about. And again, I always like a variety of, like, there's sometimes where you kind of get on your high horse and you want to say, I don't like this, or I really like this. Then there's other times you're going to come at it from super high levels of curiosity, saying like, I don't even know what I don't know. And here's all the questions that I have. So that's where there's a lot of open-endedness with blogging. One of the things, and there's a rubric here probably at some point we'll look at as well, but it's also a great place to include, short video clips from YouTube or TikTok or wherever that are kind of, being a catalyst to your thinking. So I love it when a blog post includes multimedia, whether it's images or video or, podcast clips, whatever you want to have. The second part of this networking piece is the Discord community. Now, Discord is something that is a little bit new to me. I mean, I've used it. I mostly just use it for really specific purposes. So I have not used it in this context. But as people have kind of already jumped in, it's just that place where if you have a thing in the middle of the week where I watch this video, I read this article, I don't know if this is a thing, you post it there. It doesn't have to be completely related to the course. You know, it just might be something that you think is kind of funny or humorous or educationally related. That's fine. Yeah, and Kavita, that's fine to give it the same link. Just keep going on that one. That's awesome. You don't need to create a new blog at all. So that's kind of how it is. And if people have like quick questions or something, so I've actually set up so my notifications is on. So especially if it's a question that you know other people might have, like, hey, when is this thing due? Or what is this about? Like, it's different if it's a personal thing. Yeah, personal thing, you're going to contact me through email or messages. I get that. But if it's a question that you think others might have the same question or wondering or think could benefit from a share, use the Discord. I have the notification set on that one, so I see them right away and can respond. So and because again, somebody mentioned, I don't know if it was Miranda or somebody mentioned that some of the links that I posted there, they couldn't access. That's the perfect place to do that, because you wouldn't be the only one that's going to have that question. So exactly the place to use it. I don't expect you to use that a ton. All I would say is probably have your notifications on, but even then, you don't want to do that and you just want to check it. Like many of you, you're well on your way to your finishing here, so you know kind of your own cadence and workflow. But I always figure with an online course, you probably want to check in at least every 2 or 3 days, just a quick check in to see what's going on, even if it's 10 minutes, just to read a few things. Okay, good, and then you come back to it another time, and you might obviously spend more time blogging. So that's kind of the way we want to use the Discord channel. Obviously here we're talking about discussions and facilitation participation. So we'll talk specifically about the content catalyst. So each of you are going to have responsibilities to take a week of kind of direct the learning and kind of shape how we're going to kind of process that at the end. And that's some of that studies are there. So that's 40% of your grade. Then another 40% is your major project. And you can see here, there are 5 options. And I will tell you, full disclosure, I borrowed these from Alec. He said these work pretty well, but this is really where, if you look at these and say, none of these really catch my fancy, what if that's where you're going to have to come to me and negotiate that. And that's something that I would probably say you should have figured out probably by mid-October. Like in a month, you probably should have some sense of what that's going to be. I'm not putting a hard date on that one, but what I might do at some point is just, again, put out a form asking each of you to say, hey, what are you thinking about your project? Just so that I have a sense to kind of review that. And if I think I have a good idea, maybe there's something I can help you with, saying, oh, I love that idea, here's what you might want to do, or tell me more, I don't know if this is going to work. Just that way we can start a conversation. But that's kind of what I'm thinking around that one. But again, would love it if you, even if you took these and tweaked them a bit, maybe they're not perfect, but you can use them. Awesome. If you've got something else you think would be more aligned with your current role, that's even better. And if you can make that argument for me, I'm almost more apt to want you to do it, knowing that it's really going to be meaningful for you. And then finally, this is your sort of final test, if you will, sort of summary of learning. Typically, these are videos, but they could be a slide deck. The one element, it has to actually have your actual voice in it, so that needs to be a live audio. So you can't just submit a slide deck, here's my learning, or writing. So it could be a culmination of all your blogging and whatever. And I'm not even in this case looking for well, again, we'll look at some of the rubrics to sort of see, and I'm going to share some of them. So let me jump to the rubric here. Okay, so this is just for the summary of learning and kind of see, you can kind of have a look and see what that is. So summary of a course experience is something that really captures not just one or two of your kind of singular topics, but really does sort of give a wide breadth of all of the course. So that's a big part of it. Then looking at, kind of how you engage with the course. So evidence of sort of deep thinking in that way. And you're asking me what that looks like. I mean, probably you would probably point to your portfolio, your blog as being a primary indicator of that deep thinking, and also commenting on other people's blogs too, because there's a lot of people who probably don't even enjoy writing as much as they do commenting. So you kind of find your groove, like what's the thing for you. So you might say, like, I don't always have great ideas to start with, but I'm very happy to engage with other people when they share their ideas, and that's awesome. Then there's some for originality, if you can make it kind of interesting and engaging. So that is that rubric. We should look at this other one. Here we go. I want to jump to the back to the blogging. Course interactions. Well, no, that's not the one I want. Here we go. Yeah. So this is the one around those sort of all the ways in which you can contribute during this one. Now, one of the things that I love to do, and I've done it in another situation. Well, there's two pieces, and I don't know if I've fully explained that one here. So, and again, this is not something you decide today. This is something that probably you don't decide this until November sometime, how you want to sort of change the weighting of it. If you feel like that you've really invested a lot of time into your summary of learning, which is only 20%. If you say, like, I want that to be worth 30%, you can kind of tweak the weighting of the other ones if you like. I just like that idea of you kind of leaning into your strength. This is the thing I did a lot of work with blogging, and so I'd love that to be weighted a little bit higher. You get to pick that. So I want you to kind of think about how you want to own that one. As well, and I will again give you the format and structure of it. But one of the things that I believe strongly in is self-assessment. And if I do my job right by creating a rubric that kind of gives you a sense of what you want to do, you should be able to look at that rubric. You should be able to look at your work and say, yeah, I think I deserve this kind of a grade. And so I'm asking you to kind of grade yourself. So before you submit your network, your professional learning piece, there's going to be an opportunity for you to basically say, here's the grade I think I should get, that I deserve, and with some justification why that, for all those pieces. So that's something that we'll do. Just let me message my buddy who's wants to talk, but I can't. Sorry. There. Yeah, I really, really believe in that, the idea of self-assessment. And somebody told me the story the other day, is that a kid wrote an essay for their teacher and put their teacher's rubric into ChatGPT and put their essay into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gave it a grade based on the rubric. Kid hands in his assignment to his teacher, said, yeah, I got an 85, and I know it's an 85 because it's based on your rubric that you did it. I thought, well, it's pretty clever to do that. So anyway, that is that piece. And yeah, so that is the syllabus. And let me just go through back over here. I think everything else kind of is laid out there that you need to do. I think that kind of covers it. So I'm going to stop and would love to hear if you have any comments, questions, clarifications.
This might be a dumb question, but blogs, to be able to comment on others, will you give a list of everybody's links?
That's not a dumb question, but it's a good question. I'm glad you asked that, Lisa. So let's have a look here. So I'm in the process of building out our hub here. And I've got Andrea's in there because she just sent me hers earlier. And my guess is I'm going to click on Andrea's link here. She hasn't blogged yet, so that's why there's nothing. So I put my blog in, so looks like I'm self-grandizing here. Like, here, look at all the stuff I wrote. But that's what's going to look like. Now on the top here, my goal is to, and I don't know if I got to figure out a way to, because it looks like it's going to get unwieldy if I have like 16 names across the top.
Right.
This will be the space to do that. So again, and great question, Lisa. So back in the day, you could, well, you still can. You can use a tool like Feedly, or others. You don't have to use that one. So Feedly basically is kind of like, I mean, if you listen to podcasts now, you know, and you subscribe to certain shows, that just comes there automatically. That's the same thing it does for blogs. So it's a similar kind of reader. But you can also just make a habit of saying, okay, on like, I don't know, Fridays or whatever day you decide, you're going to come and just kind of read what other people wrote. And I'm just asking you to, like, I don't want to do this in any kind of a super structured way, but just to be mindful of, you know, people in the class that you maybe haven't commented on. And you're probably going to naturally, because you like how someone writes or because they teach something similar to you, that you're going to gravitate to them more because you probably have more in common. Fine. But you also don't just want to hone in on 5 people and that's all you do. So I'm just asking you to be mindful of that and figure out your own way of kind of touching everybody and being, you know, being thoughtful. And again, I think one of the things that's so easy to do with blogs, that it always leaving with people with questions, like invite them to comment by saying, what do you think about this? Or I don't know how to process this, or what's your experience been in that? That's a very open-ended, easy way for someone to go on the blog and just say, oh, like you're telling them what to do. I don't always do that on my blog. Sometimes I'm just telling you what I think, and it doesn't always lend itself for conversation. But I would say, generally speaking, you should try to make it inviting for people to engage, because you want people to not just comment on, but you want people to add to your thinking. And that's been my philosophy in blogging, is like, if people can join in my thinking and help me clarify an idea. I often start blogs by saying, I don't know if this is going to make any sense, but I'm going to write it anyways. And then people help me make sense of it, saying, yeah, no, this makes sense. Or I think where you're missing something is there. Yes. Long-winded answer, Lisa, of saying it's going to be here. And again, I've got all your blogs submitted. Now, you might not have given me the exact RS feed, but I'm not going to bother you by having you do it. I know where to find you. I know where to find those blogs. So that's on me over the next week to try to get this populated. So I will keep you updated on the Discord as to when I think I've got everything on here. And all of that to say, if that doesn't happen this week, don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about comment. You just write. I'll figure that out later. So that may not happen this week, just because, again, I'm traveling, got a lot of stuff going. So that's where we're at. Other questions?
Dean, I have a question about the content analysis. Content analysis
Yes.
for one of the assignments.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's
Is there
look at
a
that.
form?
Okay, so what you're going to do is, and I'll put that in the chat. So it's this document here. You can kind of do it whenever. So here's the idea with it. So this is where you're going to fill in your name. If there's a topic that you really want, you can go ahead and do that now even. I mean, if there's something that just jumps, I said, no, that's the one I really want to do. Yeah, go ahead. Otherwise, you may want to wait. So the idea with this one is that you're going to take essentially, and I've kind of have this here. So if let's say Anna, you and Jenny and Brittany, whatever, you all kind of sign up for the same thing. I'm not expecting you to get together and like plan some big project. That's not what I think should happen. But what I might suggest that you each do is say, here is what I'm going to have. Each of you might sort of pick a question if you want to do a breakout. So just to make sure you're not doing the same question, and you kind of coordinate that. So you probably are going to have to do some coordination with the people that sign up to that one. Or you might say, I'm going to do like, there's 10 minutes. I just want to do like a quick 10-minute presentation or outline of some of these ideas of things that I found, somebody can do that. Like there's a lot of different ways to sort of look after that, but like it's basically an hour of our time together, leading a conversation around that topic. Does that make sense, Anna? Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. We won't start that though until what did I say, October 8.
Are we getting access now or later?
Oh, do you not have access yet?
We don't have edit access yet.
Oh, I can do that now. Or I said, when did I say tomorrow? Why did I say tomorrow? What do I care? Hold on.
It said the 13th somewhere, not that.
Yeah, 13th.
There. It's now. I don't know. I'm thinking, does that mean like people are like just rushing to get in there? It was like a lottery or like Taylor Swift concert tickets or something that they wanted to get in. I can't imagine it's that urgent, but okay, go ahead.
Trying to avoid the weeks of parent-teacher interviews is all I was looking
That's
at.
okay. I get it. Yeah. Also, am I correct? Is there like a break the week of Thanksgiving and onward? Is that like no classes? Is that true? Is that a thing?
I think that's a university thing, is it not?
Yep.
Yeah. So in other words, most of you that are teaching is not going to matter to you. Just you have a week off. I think I have to be in Omaha that week, so it's probably good for me not to be there.
Dean,
All right.
can I just clarify
Yes,
something?
Taylor. Yes.
So we do our blog about the topic, some discussion questions, video, etc. Post that about a week before, and then the actual class day is when we do a presentation that lasts about an hour, and we facilitate a discussion around that topic based on what we post the week before.
That's right.
Okay, and so if more than one person signs up for a topic, you said they could sort of like decide how they're going to break it into pieces. Is that the idea?
Yeah. So I would just
all three of them facilitate the discussion on that assigned day.
it could be that, like, I would say that might be the simplest. Say, like, here's the question I'm gonna have, and so you get up and say, okay, so, and then you go, maybe it's a breakout conversation, so you sort of frame it and say, I want a discussion on this article. Here are the things I'd like you to discuss, and then come back, and however you want to use your facilitation teaching skills for that section, pass it off to whoever else is doing it. I mean, that's one way to organize it, but it also could be because each of you are going to create like a little video of your like summary of that to set that up. And then that one, I don't care if it's overlap, like if you end up kind of focusing on a similar topic, article, or idea. But I mean, the fact that you're coming up with links to reading, my guess is you shouldn't be coming up. You should, like, there's obviously a zillion that you can choose from. So I'm guessing you're not going to have
so
the
then
same
would
one.
each person that, if they chose the same topic, have to facilitate an hour-long conversation?
Oh, not each. No. As a group, you would. So you might do 20, I guess, is what I'm.
Okay, and then if you sign up individually, you facilitate for an hour.
I mean, yeah. So that's the thing, Taylor. I'm hoping that it doesn't work out that way. I'm hoping that it's pretty balanced.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if I put here, so that no more than 3 people to a topic.
Okay.
So there shouldn't be a situation where somebody's on their own. It might be somebody where there's 2 on there. But again, this isn't something that I think the bulk of the work is going to come from culling and curating resources.
Yeah.
That's where the bulk of the work is going to come from. And then you just want to spend time getting your colleagues to respond to that, saying like, I spent, 3 hours this week pulling this stuff together. You guys you read, listened, whatever, give me 20 minutes of your thoughts on some of these things, right?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that because, again, not having done it, I'm trying to figure out the logistics, and you're raising these points around like,
I just
how
wanted
is
to
that
make
going to
sure
work?
I could wrap my head around it.
Yeah. And if there's something weird that comes up with that, saying like, here's the chat, like, just let's talk about that and figure out how we can make it unweird if that's possible. All right. Let me stop sharing here. And I'm gonna do a little just like old school lecture. Well, I got there's some stuff to do here, but we're going to kind of do that stuff too, because I kind of want to give my sort of here's the sort of my initial early thoughts on digital citizenship and media literacy. Again, did a lot of this work both when I was at the school division as this term sort of began to get life in the mid 2000s, and you all, you know, have been part of that journey, whether you were a student or a teacher or where you are in this one and the evolution of that. I'm really excited because next week Mike Ribble's going to be there, and I've never met Mike, but I know Mike from being a guy that's written a ton of stuff around that. And I just reached out and said, hey, would you come talk to my students? And he said, sure. So that's how awesome it is sometimes when you just ask people that you've never met, they don't know you from Adam, and they say, sure. Like that's kind of cool that we get to do that one. But so let me go and let's start this up here. I'm going to start my slideshow. All right. So this, I think the concept here of rethinking digital citizenship really sort of was born out of the original idea of digital citizenship was always that, you know, this constant idea of sort of thinking of it as being something separate. And so part of my own thinking has shifted to think about, instead of just thinking of instead of thinking of just digital citizenship, thinking just of citizenship, right? Because being a citizen also now is the digital world. And yes, there are nuanced differences that we want to explore and have to understand, but to constantly separate the idea of digital citizenship and citizenship is a little bit, I think, a little bit awkward and kind of misses out on that. So when I asked this question, and I think I have this one, oh, this is okay, I do have this in here. So if you have your phone, see if this will work. I haven't done this for a while here. So question, what makes a good citizen? So if you go on your text messaging and you text 37607, and then in the text message field, you write D. Shareski, and then your answer. I hope it'll work. If not, I've not set it up correctly, which could be.
Mine says waiting for presentation to begin. I don't know if anybody else's says that.
Could be me. Could be me. All right. Thank you. I'm going in to fix this. I gotcha.
Mine says I've joined the session.
Get it figured out here.
Okay, well, I scanned the QR code, so maybe I just need to do the text.
Could just be me, but let me see.
I have received a message that we have received. It's your first time participating. Your phone number is completely private. Message and data rates may apply.
It should be working now. Because I clicked
Yeah,
activate.
it's working now.
That was a
QR
me.
code.
Yeah, it's working for me too. Yeah.
That was a me thing. There we go. Got test in there. Am I right in assuming there's the Trump Harris debates going on right now? That's happening? Yeah, I thought so. I think that my sister and brother are downstairs watching it. Timely. So I guess what I'm wondering is when you see these responses, all of them are good. They're all certainly reasonable responses. How do you reconcile this with the idea of digital citizenship? So who can take one of them, whether it's the one you shared or one you see, and say, yeah, this is also applies to digital citizenship, or perhaps you say, oh, I don't think this applies to digital citizenship. This is a separate thing.
I talked about like taking care of the people, environment within society. So I think it applies directly to digital citizenship. I think you're kind of doing the same thing. Respect, being respectful, that sort of thing, taking care of others through that, but also a role as a teacher is to build more active digital citizenship type situations so kids can participate actively and responsibly.
I think the thing that, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to expand on that because mine also was cares for others. And what I'm learning in looking at new research on changed brain psychology of youth, and the complexity of that in social interactions, that it takes so much extra effort to teach that now that we're not seeing people's facial cues and we have to view people differently, I guess, to be empathetic. So I think that's a really complex idea in the digital world.
I think the thing that strikes me is that all of these are very active, proactive, if you will, responses. And yet, when I think about most of our digital citizenship conversations, they've not been super proactive. They've been much more reactive. So I would say these are the questions that I think will be part of this course right from now until the end. What roles do schools and educators play in understanding and addressing the impact of digital technologies on our lives and in our learning? How do we retain our humanity and authenticity in digital spaces? And that one in particular, I think it really is something I think a lot about when it comes to the AI conversation. And then the wellness piece, right? How do we combat the anxiety, addiction, and harmful aspects of online life? I don't know if everybody's algorithm is what it is, but I've been getting a lot of the are you familiar with Jonathan Haidt's Anxious Generation book that just came out, and it's just been getting a ton of, at least again in my feed, references to that idea of student wellness, and it kind of aligns with taking cell phones away, which now is part of Saskatchewan, and almost every other province now has gone to that thing. So these are the questions we're wrestling with, and I always love it when people just get into a bit of a debate on that, because I do sort of see both sides to that equation, right? When it makes sense to have a device in every kid's hand, and when it doesn't make sense, and when it's actually a harmful thing. So I think this continues to be a very complex question, that these are the things that I hope throughout this course we can just continue to kind of think through it. And I totally know that I don't have all the answers for these, and I don't think we're going to have the answers for them, but I think we do have to start thinking about what our roles are. I think we have to think about increasing the humanity of our experiences together, and then also making sure that online life, in any part of our life for sure, but online life in particular in this case, doesn't add to anxiety, which arguably it certainly has over the last little while. And so I wrote this a little bit a while back around this idea of sort of a mixed message, like that want to scare kids about posting online, and yet again, as we think about what it means to be a citizen, it does actually ask us to be active. And so I've always thought kids have always felt a mixed message around that one, and a lot of kids do kind of think about that idea of just only not doing bad stuff. But again, that loneliness idea I think is really interesting. So this is actually an older video. I'll just watch a few seconds of it, I think, and I think we can all kind of relate to this in some way. I don't need to add, I think you kind of get, right, what that's about. And I mean, we all have, I mean, we've experienced maybe in some ways, but we've all kind of sensed that inauthenticity of, people's best selves being presented online. And that, that does go back to this idea of a mixed kind of a message, right? The idea that, hey, kids, be authentic, but also put your best self online all the time. And so that pressure adds around, like, everything you have to post has to be awesome. And so, like, I wrestle with that, right? So and yet, I mean, it's I guess suppose it's not a million miles off from kids being authentic in outside of digital spaces, right? Like kids, especially teenagers or whatever, there's all kinds of challenges as they're kind of hitting puberty and trying to figure out life and who they are and how they want to behave. And so they are naturally going to struggle with, when do I be vulnerable and let people know who I am, and when I'm not great, and when things are hurting. And also, there's times where you should put your best self forward, and you do want to present yourself in a positive way. And that's all. I mean, all of us, doesn't matter how old we are, that's not something that we just figure out. We have to continue to figure it out. And I think the shift towards more conversations about mental health and wellness has been great, and sort of allowing kids and adults to be more reflective. But I don't know, real quick, just how does that video reflect your experience or perception of the internet in 2024? And again, that video is probably 6-7 years old, but is it not relevant anymore? Still relevant? Where does it sit with you today? Just a couple people would be great to hear from. You can put it in the chat, you can talk, whatever.
The video made me think about, I saw on some online story that influencers are like renting houses to pretend it's their house to film their content in. So that's what it kind of made me think about. Still so relevant.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's like, you wonder when are we going to get, when is it not going to be relevant? Like, in some ways, it'd be great if people would laugh at that video thinking, oh, people don't do that anymore. Like, nobody posts pictures of just their awesomeness. And it's like, yeah, they kind of do. Everybody. And again, I like, I'm not going to post, crazy wild stuff, but I mean, listen, I've been doing online, presenting myself in some way online for probably 20 some years, and have really worked at trying to be authentic, to some people's dismay, like, because back in the day when we used Twitter, which is not a thing anymore, it was one of those places where you could say, I'm eating 11 tacos tonight for dinner. And, people go, that's silly. Why would you do that? But I mean, part of it was social grooming, right? It's like, that's how you get to know people. You start with these very innocuous, doesn't matter kind of details to sort of build a connection with people, whether it's around tacos or sports or movies, whatever that thing is. And you try to do it in an unserious way so that it makes people maybe more vulnerable to connect. And yet, it's not the same anymore in the way we do that. Now we're much more guarded and sort of and I don't say political correctness in any kind of a judgmental way, but it is like we don't want to cross a line, right? Like we don't want to say something that could offend people, so we're much more guarded, which is probably not a bad thing in many respects. But it's just created more of a I think desire to be perfect and so forth. So, and again, thinking about how that relates to us as individuals and particularly as our students, I think is a big question. So there's this concept of sort of digital dualism as well. So like the offline world is real. That's the real world, and the online world is virtual. And we still kind of talk about that in those terms, and that can be a bit of a dangerous way to go. And yeah, again, this idea that, people that, and this is Clay Shirky, and Clay Shirky is somebody who's really, in some respects, gone a bit of a change in his own personal perspective. And if you read, he wrote some of the books called Here Comes Everybody, which was kind of advocating for, the positive power of the internet, how it was going to bring people together, and social justice and activism, which it did, but it also has, he's also seen that it's brought a lot of nasty stuff to it as well. But this is just, we know this is just their world right now. Everybody's doing that as well. So digital dualism, again, is this idea that, and by the way, on my screen, I'm flopping back and forth to, because I only have one screen now. Is it weird for you? Are you seeing the screen flip back and forth? Are you all seeing just my screen? Are you just seeing just my screen? Okay, good, because I'm having a weird experience, and I think if you're seeing what I'm seeing, you'd be weirded out too. Back to this one. Sorry. So this idea of digital dualism it's a bit of a false separation, sort of seeing the two, and because most of our lives are meshed together, what we do online isn't necessarily separate from what we do in real life. And I think when that separation has existed, I think that's caused problems, right? Where we see people act a certain way online that they would never act in person, and vice versa. And so I don't think it makes sense for us to think of them in separate terms. I kind of believe that they should be thought of together. So there shouldn't really be a digital dualism. So thinking about maybe how we currently address digital citizenship, who can just in there, whatever, in the chat, grab a mic, what would you say is most prevalent when we think about how we're addressing digital citizenship today?
My oldest he's just turning 11, and so we're kind of navigating through this whole digital life and the parameters around it and all of the things. And I feel for kids these days that everything is videoed, and it just takes everything a whole different course. I feel like I wasn't that bad of a teenager, but I'm sure glad things don't have a history saved in the web somewhere of the stupid stuff I did. And I worry about their mental health because of those things.
Who wrote in the U form that they use TikTok pretty regularly?
That was me.
Yeah. Well, no, and I think that's important, because when I look at all the ways in which the messages that kids get, it's like they're kind of told, like, always be careful, because they don't have examples like you of a caring adult who's trying to use these tools in a thoughtful, and again, I'm Kelsey, I'm assuming it's thoughtful. I mean, I'm sure you think it's thoughtful. I don't know, but they need adults, right? They need people like you who are saying, like, listen, you can use these tools, but you gotta have a certain understanding of how they use it. I don't think, and that's always been my problem, is I don't think they have a lot of models out there. I mean, their models are influencers, which, I mean, they're all over the map, right? There's probably some that are very good influencers that they follow and know. I mean, kids talk about YouTube content creators or whatever. I mean, those are their, sort of celebrity heroes of the day as much as anybody, right? And and understanding who those people are and what messages and what kind of values they're teaching, I think is important for us to know. But I mean, even better if we can be somewhat examples to them of how we use these tools, whether in whatever way that is. I think that's the more powerful. But yeah, I think it just seems to be, and when I ask this question, I'm honestly curious because I don't know what messages are being said in schools anymore. But what you're describing here were the messages that I was hearing even 10 years ago, were the same kind of things. Like, the internet is a scary place. Bad things can happen. Whatever you post stays on there forever. It's gonna ruin your life if you say something nasty. And it's all these sort of scare tactics instead of saying, like, listen, you're going to use these tools. You got to figure out a way to use them to actually be a good citizen, right? And what does that look like? And I don't know that we've really painted the picture of what does that even mean to be a good digital citizenship or good digital citizen. And some of it goes back to this notion of digital natives, right? So digital natives was a term that Mark Prensky came up with, again, back in the 2000s. And he's kind of got a lot of bad press for using it. He didn't mean it to sort of go the way it went, but essentially it's become old people versus young people. Digital natives those are kids that have always grown up with technology. That's all they've ever known. They never know life beyond it. Yeah, sure. And that they come to it, they know how to use all this stuff. And that old people who didn't grow up with it, they don't know how to use it. So they're digital immigrants. And it was kind of a polarizing, divisive kind of term, I think, that basically said all kids are digital natives and they know how to use technologies, and we sort of abdicate that to them. And then us old people, we don't know anything, so we have to learn from the kids. And again, I just think it was a false narrative that people sort of ran with. So some of the studies talk about sort of these three different kind of experiences that kids have. So the idea that some kids have tech access with like little guidance. So like, here's the technology, they're kind of figuring it out on their own, which unfortunately I think are a good number of our kids have that one. And then there's the digital heirs. So they've actually learned how to use technology in pretty effective ways. And this is where, when you hear things like digital divide, this is what I think about, is those kids that actually understand the technologies and are using it in productive ways. And then there's one that are kind of maybe don't have any access to technology. And this is obviously, I think, a pretty small group, but maybe not. But also I'm understanding, as parent and especially as grandparents, looking at my granddaughter who's 6 and thinking about, like, I don't want her to have a cell phone anytime soon. Like, she doesn't need to be, she needs to stay a kid, right? And so like I always say, you only get to be 7 once. And I want being 7 to be a special thing and not necessarily have to be clouded with technology. But yeah, obviously that's going to come. And so when it does come, what do we want to do to help them? Sorry, is David, I think it's David. I want to say David Mitchell, but I don't think that's his name. Anyways, he wrote this idea of visitors and residents, and I think I probably even have it here, but it was covered up. No, which I thought is a way better way of framing it rather than talking about natives and immigrants. So the idea of visitors, residents, are people that live in a place. So think about you. So some of you have lived in different cities. So those of us, and there's a number of us in the group, and I know, and I know Chris's family, and I know Chris a little bit growing up in Moose Jaw. We would be residents of Moose Jaw. In other words, we understand where stuff is. We don't need a map for anything. I want to get something, or somebody makes a reference to a certain place using a nickname. Yeah, I know where it is. So wherever you live, right? Those are things that come with being a resident. People that move there, they're the visitors. And so it doesn't mean that they're not, it just means that they have to, it's a little more difficult to navigate because they've got to learn these kind of things and they've got to kind of feel that way. So I much prefer this analogy of visitors versus residents rather than immigrants, because it's not stagnant, right? You can become a resident. So once you're a visitor, but in that digital native, digital immigrant analogy, you are always a digital native, or you're always a digital immigrant. And when we think about even the way people think about a place like the mall, so it's the same place, but some people think about the mall as a place to go shopping. That's what you do. You go there, you bring your money, you bring your credit card, and you get stuff. Other people, it's a place to visit and hang out. And other people, you don't want to be there at all, and you're tolerating it to be there. So you're getting in and out quickly so that's, I think the analogy is apt in the sense that that's how a lot of people think of the internet. They have very different purposes. For some people, they're going online to get something. I go online because I got to get information. I got to book a flight. I got to do this. I got to do that. Then we have those people in the middle who I'm going there to interact with people. I'm going to socialize. And then we have the people who really are trying to spend as little time as possible in those kind of spaces. So just, again, that context is helpful. So I want to do a little exercise with you, if you don't mind. So this idea is called mapping the internet. So this is actually a visualization of the internet. And part of what makes this interesting, other than it just being a blob of colors, is that there's no sort of central hub. Like there's a few kind of key places, but everything sort of springs out from everywhere else. So there's no sort of like main place where this happens. So here's the exercise I want you to do. So if you have a piece of paper handy and a pen, that would be the best thing to do. If you don't have that and you want to do that on a document of some sort, you can. But this is what I want you to do. So I want to take this piece of paper document, draw a line down the middle, up and down, draw a line horizontally. So you make that kind of the 4 quadrants, and then label it just as I have there. So on the right-hand side, it's resident. On the left-hand side, visitor. On the top, you have personal. And on the bottom, you have professional. So that's what I want you to lay out. So I'll give you just a second to kind of do that, and I'll show it again if you miss out on it here. And then I want you to draw your map of the internet. And so what I want you to think about is I want you to think about all of the spaces and all of the time you spend online. And so it could be everything from as basic as email and just searching for stuff, but it could be platform specific, like TikTok or ChatGPT or X or Insta, whatever they are. And then I want you to draw kind of a representation of that in the most appropriate quadrant. So here's an example, and I'm sharing this from you because you're going to see on here, there are some platforms that don't even exist. So this was mine, I think when I first did this exercise, probably about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So with this one, you can see that I have something like Twitter, for example, now X. I felt very much like I was a resident of Twitter in that I understood how the technology worked. I knew sort of the shortcuts, the ways to get around it, what was happening to the people. And I've placed it as large as I have because it was a place where I spent maybe more time than I would have spent in email or LinkedIn or any other place. And I positioned it in more personal than professional. So I used it more as personal, professional. That was an example of that. And I'll just kind of keep going through some of these, how these changed. So this is kind of more of an updated one. So you can see TikTok sort of sits over here as, I still feel like a visitor because I feel like there's things going on. I don't quite know exactly how the hashtags are always supposed to work. And so I'm still feeling like I'm not a full resident. I mean, I have an account, but it's not super, and it's still mostly personal. Whoops, go back again, sorry. So I'll just go back one more time to this one. And then as you see, LinkedIn is a space where I'm getting more comfortable with it. I still think there's some ways that people are using it that I go, oh, I didn't really know how people use that. But way more professional, right? Like I don't use LinkedIn for personal stuff. Facebook is definitely more personal, a little bit of professional. And ChatGPT is I'm feeling really comfortable with it, although I don't know, maybe I should shift that over a little bit more. I'm not totally a prompt engineering expert. And again, definitely using it half and half between personal and professional. So once again, here's the instruction, and I'm just going to give you, we're not going to spend a ton of time, and maybe all you want to do is pick like 4 platforms. So the 4 platforms where you think you spend the most time online, put them in the quadrant. So I'm just gonna pause and let you do that. I'm going to give you about, I know we're kind of getting close to the end of our time, and I'm going to honor that. I'll give you about another couple minutes to do that. So if you're using paper, pencil, paper, whatever, in a couple minutes, what I'm going to get you to do is hold it up in front of the camera. And I might spotlight it so we can kind of look at a few of them. If you did it on your phone or a laptop, then we may not be able to do that. This one might, and I would also suggest, I'm just tossing this out here, this might be something that you choose to blog about, maybe more specifically talking about screen time and things like that, and the way you spend your time and where you feel you are in terms of that idea of visitor or resident in these spaces. I think it's always fascinating. All right, if you've got yours done, can you hold, if you're still working on it, keep working on it for a second, but if you're done, can you hold it up to the screen? Let's see if we can do it. All right, I'm gonna go, okay, Jenny, keep yours there. I'm gonna see if I can spotlight you. Okay, there we go. So I'm just gonna do a quick analysis on here. So it looks like Snapchat is very, very comfortable in using. She feels most comfortable using it, and it's exclusively personal. The only one that you're using that kind of blends, it looks like Pinterest is the one that kind of blends a little bit into personal, but that it's kind of interesting in that you don't have a lot that sit on there. And then Twitter is another one that's mostly professional and a little bit personal. And I'll just you can drop it for a second because I want to hear you. Did I assess that correctly, do you think, Jenny? Or did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you assessed that correctly. It was I love it.
Yeah. And
But yeah, I could see the other like kind of leaning like TikTok. If I go on it, it's just for professional stuff.
Okay. Yeah. And then with Snapchat, because that's not one that I'm only reason is it's like our family group chat, because that's kind of where our family stuff is. Are you're using it for more than just personal interactions with individuals then, correct?
Yeah, we'll use it for lots of group chats, but then that's where I go on and I'll see like I check the Daily Mail to see what's going on in my
certain follows that you have. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll remove spotlight. Hold those up again. I want to pick maybe one more person to share. Okay, Taylor, I'm going to look at yours because it looks like you've got some stuff across. Yeah, okay. So she's got search that's sort of split personal and professional. Well, I love it. Snapchat seems to sit right in the middle quadrant. So you're feeling not quite fully a resident, not quite fully a visitor, and not total professional, not personal. So, and what's ELL2? Am I missing out on that? What is that?
It's a new program called Ellie that's I'm unfamiliar with to support EAL learners.
Okay. So talk about, again, why don't you help me understand how Snapchat kind of bridges is like right in the center?
Partially because I couldn't put it higher up for personal.
Okay.
Because TikTok's up there.
Right.
I also have a bunch of teacher friends on Snapchat, and we'll share certain things that we find on there, like classroom hacks and deals and things like that through that group chat.
Okay. Who can give me their best understanding of the difference between Snapchat and TikTok? I don't know that I can fully articulate that. Can anybody feel like they could actually tell me the difference between the two?
Yeah, I would say that TikTok's more about like creation of like more of a video, like more of like an on stage type of thing, whereas Snapchat I feel is like the most personal community of friends that you can have.
Okay.
You can limit how many people have that
Yeah.
access, right?
TikTok seems more aligned with YouTube, right? Like it's more
yeah.
And Snapchat maybe leans more towards an Instagram parallel, not exactly, but ish things. Okay. I want a fella to come up and do one. So Chris or Jason or Dustin or Josh. All right, Josh, I'm going to spotlight yours. Hold yours up, Josh. Let's see how yours is different.
It's coming up really fuzzy when I try to put it up, so I don't know if
Take
it's
your blur background off.
Yeah, I think the blur background's taking it. That's a good point. 1 second. There we go. Is that better?
Yes.
And my stuff is flipped, but I got YouTube up here, I got Twitch up here, and the resident side.
Yeah.
Because it's flipped. I got, what even is that one? That's just email.
It's
Email
not
down
flipped
there.
for us, Josh.
Oh, it's not. Okay, good. It's just flipped for me.
Just for you, yeah.
Okay,
So
perfect.
And then what's the one that's right on the personal just above the personal?
Twitter.
Twitter. Okay.
Yeah.
So Twitch, I'm guessing is gaming for you?
Yeah, Twitch is essentially like I sort of almost use it as like a podcast platform, not for myself to use. That's why it's in the more personal side. But you know, if I'm just going about my work during the day, I kind of like these people are playing games because I like to play games myself, but a lot of the time they're just sort of talking about nothing, and it's just sort of it gets the earworm going for some reason, where I feel like I can focus better when there's just sort of active discussion going on. And so that's mainly what I use that for, and that's why it's in the personal and resident. Like I've been focused on that for a long time.
And what did you have on your visitor side? Just curious to see.
On the visitor side, it was Snapchat, which I had during high school, and then deleted it for a while afterwards and never really used it. And then when I met my fiance, she was like, "You don't have Snapchats?" Then I had to get it again. But
you still feel like I don't really
yeah,
fully
exactly.
embrace it.
Like
I mean,
once a month I'll post a story of my dog doing something silly, right?
But I think that's the example of what it means to be a visitor. It's like I don't really know where I'm supposed to be here, and it's not like what I find interesting is like there's that difference between there's some people who still feel like I do not fully grasp how a platform is supposed to work, but I'm there a lot because I really find it engaging. Which I think that's an interesting, in the same way that like, right, if you go to, you know, whatever, a new place in the city and you're excited to be there, it's like, I love this place, but I don't really live here. And I don't really know how everything works, but I'm still deeply curious around how people are interacting in these spaces and just kind of watching that one. Oh, Odell, tell us a little bit more about that one. You kind of got 100% visitor and then resident. So talk about one of those, like YouTube, for example. You've got that as a
yes. For Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, I really don't know how to navigate those platforms, so I only hear about them. Yeah, but for YouTube, because I'm more of a researcher in science education, so many times I do personal development for myself, and one way I do that is by listening to YouTube videos on particularly how to do analysis when I'm doing qualitative or quantitative analysis. And for LinkedIn, because of the kind of research I do, I try to network with a lot of people. I attend conferences, so I get information from LinkedIn and Google Chrome. Yeah, I do a lot of search. So that's why I'm also more like a resident with ChatGPT, because I use Gemini, I use SciSpace, I use them in getting ideas, knowing how to search for literatures and all that. So it's something I do regularly. Yeah.
In the ones that you've identified yourself as a visitor, which of those do you actually spend a reasonable amount of time, even though you're a visitor, or the most time, I guess? Because you're trying to figure it out.
Maybe I'll say Snapchat, but that is like very minute time. I can't even say I spend up to an hour, probably a few seconds, and I'm out of the place.
Yeah, I always just find it fascinating, and I think I would highly recommend that you, if you're teaching middle school at all or high school, like this is a fascinating kind of exercise to do with kids in terms of getting them to sort of articulate where they spend their time and what they spend their time on. We're just going to wrap up, and I just wanted to show one more. Where was I here? Kind of put a little bit of a bow on our time together. So what do we got here? I'm not sharing anymore, I don't think. So quick share, and then we're going to be done here. So this was actually interesting. So the first time that I did this, so the two screenshots on the left for my screen time, right? So if you have an iPhone, I don't know if does Android have a similar function that tells you where you spend your time on your phone? I don't know if it does. Yay, no. Anyway.
Yeah, it's called digital well-being, I think.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, right, like those first two that I did, that was from, you see, 2019. So spending an average of $2.19 a day. Like, I was kind of embarrassed to look at. Like, I'm almost like double that much of time on my phone. I don't know if what that says. And then you can kind of see the categories of where we spend our time. So we actually have data. It's not obviously from your laptop, which I don't know what, I'm sure when you were doing those mapping, you probably weren't necessarily thinking device specific, but I think it's just interesting to think about where people spend their time and how that changes over time. So I think it's just kind of a fascinating thing to think about, because sometimes when you look at it, you feel like, oh, well, that's not so bad. I'm not doing anything. Like that first one, looking at spending, now, and I apologize because the left hand side is like per day, and then that categories was like the week of where I spent time. So that's why the numbers don't quite jive. But then you think of Twitter, that's a lot of time spent on Twitter. Does that make me a bad person? I don't know. Maybe it did. Maybe I'm not as anyway. So I'm gonna pause there, and I'm gonna just kind of wrap up because we're at 10:58, and we'll continue with this. Maybe I'll share the rest of it with you. Maybe I won't, didn't get it done, but that's okay. Hopefully that's kind of enough just to get the juices flowing. And that's all I really kind of was hoping for today, is that we could just kind of see each other, hear each other, understand a little bit more of our context, toss out some of the ideas that we want to explore for the rest of it. But I had a good time today. I appreciate you guys all kind of engaging with me, and I sure hope Dustin gets some supper, because and who else didn't eat yet? Yeah, Alicia, man, you guys go eat something. It's 9 o'clock where you are, and I'm dead tired because I had to get up at 3:30 for a flight this morning, so I'm kind of wasted right now. But anyways, thank you all today for this one, and again, you know how to reach out. I appreciate you guys, and have a good week, and we'll gather again next week. And next week I'm gonna be home, so I feel much better about where I'm doing this. So super extra fancy. Yeah, they're super fancy now. So all you fancy people, have a good week. And I always hang around for a few minutes at the end if people have a quick question, but if not, cheers everybody. Thank you.